an Unspoiled Network podcast.
This is Spoil Me, covering One Piece, episodes 517 through 519. The beginning of the new chapter, the Straw Hats reunited. An explosive situation, Luffy versus fake Luffy, and the Navy has set out the Straw Hats in danger. In these episodes, I love everything about this so much. I love it so much. I just wish this silly arc could go on forever, frankly. Welcome to Spoil Me. Welcome to the show, everyone. I am Natasha. Thank you very much to Florian for commissioning this episode. Florian is here in the chat. Thank you, Florian, for coming and for your patience, because I had to start a little late today. Y'all, look, there are some things that I am a real sucker for. People saying things slightly incorrectly. Characters that we know really well having to act out of character for one reason or another. But this idea of like fake Straw Hats, I am absolutely in love with this concept. I cannot even explain to you guys how delighted I was as I began to understand what was happening, like in the first episode, because it took me a second to really get what was. I was just sort of like, the Straw Hats, are there people just pretending to be part of the crew? Like, it didn't occur to me that folks would pretend to be Luffy and Sanji and Nami and all of them, because they are on wanted posters. And so everybody should know what they look like. And that is true. And it is a major problem with the fact that everybody believes they are who they say they are when they do not look anything like they look in those photos. I don't care. I don't care about it. I know it's like a giant hole in the thing, but I am totally willing to overlook it, because what we get instead, I thought it was going to be, oh, we got signed on as members of the Straw Hat crew. You haven't heard of us yet, but we're part of the crew. But no, we are getting people straight up pretending to be Luffy, to be Nami, to be Sanji, to be Zoro. Like, I keep thinking how much fun it must have been for the animator to illustrate people with a lot of like the key pieces of aesthetic, the green hair and the earrings, but otherwise make them look totally different. And it's really, really funny. I love this shit. Florian says, in the Japanese version, the voice actors of the Straw Hats change roles. Don't know if they did that in the sub. Oh my God. I didn't listen for that, but I kind of want to go back now and check. I love that. Oh my God, that's really fun. That must have been so fun for the voice actors, right? Like getting to do a totally different character. I love that. Okay, I don't know, but I'll find out. Or somebody else can find out for me. But I was just talking with Miles in an episode I recorded recently of Suki Stackhouse about filler episodes in anime and in television in general, and how a lot of the time filler episodes can be favorites of mine because they have no stakes, so we get to see what our characters act like when there isn't a massive, earth-shattering problem on the horizon, and they can just be themselves and relax. And what I enjoyed so much about these episodes is that there is a problem, but it isn't a huge problem. It's actually kind of potentially in their favor, and it's all of them like slowly finding their way back to each other. So we get to see the way they're all behaving by themselves, which is some of my favorite stuff. The way they all interact with each other can be really, really fun. Don't get me wrong. But I needed to reconnect with everybody on an individual basis and see the way they are behaving when left to their own devices. So these 3 episodes contained like several of my favorite elements of like exploring characters in general. I am into it. Also, the idea of like bizarro world versions of groups has always been a fun one to me. And it can manifest in any way you want. Like there's a Seinfeld episode where Elaine makes friends with some people at work, and she realizes later that it's basically like they're all copies of the friends that she already had, but they're more emotionally balanced and maybe better people, and she can't fit in with them. But there's also in Shaun of the Dead, you know, they're escaping the zombie hordes, and he runs into another group of escapees, and they pass one another, and there's a 1-to-1 ratio of each character, and meeting another person who obviously serves the same role in the group as they do and looks very similar. And I just really enjoy this sort of thing, man. I just do. So, okay, let's begin at the beginning here. Episode 517. And I should mention, this is all in Hulu, marked as the beginning of a new season, which means new theme song. And I'm so bummed, guys. I loved that old theme song so fucking much. I really, really liked it. And we didn't even get it for that long. It wasn't for the whole previous season. It was for like two-thirds of the way through. We suddenly got a new theme song. And I'm just super bummed that I got maybe, 20 episodes? And now we've already switched over. And this new one, I am so sorry, but it is no good. Big, big thumbs down. I think this might be one of my least favorites. So just have to mention that. But, all right. Also, the fact that we are jumping ahead 2 years. I'll be honest, I didn't think we were doing this. I saw it when I started the thing that it was going to be like we jumped ahead 2 years. But when I realized at the end of the last arc that Luffy had told everybody, let's wait and meet again in 2 years, I really thought that we might engage with everybody in the midst of that time, and then we would reconnect. I really, really approve that we didn't spend any further time apart. That we are still apart technically because everybody hasn't met up with everybody yet. But I much, much prefer jumping ahead 2 years to what I expected. This is like actually super fun because everybody has had a power up and we don't get to see what that power up even is yet. So a lot of it's sort of like we get tiny little inklings of people here and there. We get to see Luffy pull something out. We get to see Nami and Usopp pull some things out. But, like, it's just a little bit with each character, just one instance to give us an idea of just how much more powerful they are than they were before. And it's just that little taste. So we're saving some of their abilities for later, and I'm really, really looking forward to that. But yeah, so 2 years and the whole war and the notorious quality of the Straw Hats has resulted in everybody that wants free drinks at the bar or to bully folks in a town pretending to be the Straw Hats, and mostly, it seems, getting away with it. And later on, Chopper is so delighted by this because he's like, oh my God, it's like we're celebrities. This is amazing. And Nami says, don't let it go to your head. And I was like, I don't know. I feel like he can let it go to his head a little bit. Even though the only fake Chopper we ever see is that Fox, which is not awesome. But really, nobody who is a fake version of any of them is awesome. So I guess that's just to be expected. So, all right, let's see who we check in with first. Oh, right. So we're on that island, and it's snowing to show us the passage of time here. And Luffy has a big X on his chest. That's a scar. Is this an injury that he sustained in the war? Because I know that he was absolutely covered in bandages. So that's what I'm assuming, and I honestly, like, it has been quite a ride since he passed out and went basically, what's the word I want? I think I tried to remember this word when Florian was live with me, and I also forgot it then. But you know what I'm talking about, where he's like unresponsive. So I don't entirely recall how he sustained this injury, but the scar is very big, and like, it's clearly a part of his character design now in a way that changes his look a lot. And it's interesting to me how much, because you guys know, when I go to fandom stuff, like if there's a con or if I'm in a store that has a lot of fandom stuff in it, there's a particular place near me that's like a Korean stationery and gift store. I will come across One Piece paraphernalia a lot. And I always do my absolute best not to look at anything, because I know how easy it is to get spoiled. And all it takes is a tiny little thing. And the only thing that I ever felt like, I shouldn't have looked at that. There was a post, or was it a post? I think it was a figurine of Zoro, and he had a scar over his eye. And I was like, oh, that's new. He doesn't have the scar right now. I wonder what happens. And it wasn't even my fault, because somebody texted me a photo of it because they were excited about it, and they didn't realize that like where I was in the story did not have the scar. And I was just kind of like, don't send me this stuff, guys. I'm so sorry, but just don't. I am really, really surprised that I never ever got spoiled on the fact that Luffy winds up with these giant scars on his chest. I never saw anything depicting him with these scars. And I don't know if it's just that it's so far into the overall series that it's not as popular to depict him this way, if people prefer to depict the old Luffy, but he has a very different look at this point. And I'm glad, don't get me wrong, because otherwise I would have been spoiled, but I do kind of wish that like it seemed this was as popular a depiction of him. That's it. Seraphim says, it's where Akainu punched through Jinbei's shoulder and dripped lava on Luffy's chest. Okay. Thank you, Seraphim. So anyway, I just wanted to mention that because, you know, this episode starts off with him walking up to his hat in the snow. Rayleigh's Vivre card is in the brim of the hat, and it's been set in front of that tree that Rayleigh kept saying was going to be like basically home base, the spot where Luffy could be safe. And Luffy picks up his hat, but notably doesn't put it on. And then we have a moment with one of the ladies from Maiden Island, the original one that they ran into that Luffy helped. And she is beset by a couple of different beasts. And Luffy just walks up and tells them to leave her alone. And you can see that he must have a really strong vibe, because these creatures are just absolutely immediately stop and do what they are told. And Luffy even mentions how if things were different, he'd probably kill one of them and eat them. This is a goodbye from everybody at Maiden Island. They have all come here in order to say farewell. Of course, Boa is here. I just wanted to mention, I don't know how many folks out there are Megan Thee Stallion fans. Personally, I love that bitch so much. I think she's like maybe the most beautiful person on earth. And she loves anime and presented at like the huge anime awards. I don't remember what they're called. Recently, she was in Japan, and in the lead up to the awards show, she did this like series of photo shoots where she was in a sort of cosplay of a lot of popular characters. And when I say sort of, a lot of cosplayers do like an exact copy of somebody's costume, and she didn't do that. She kind of did a twist where it's modern fashion, but interpreting it with the same color scheme or the same like major spots on an outfit that are really key to the look. And it was super, super fun. But recently she came out with a song called Boa, and she had posted Boa Hancock's photo a couple times and some like photos of herself in an outfit with a snake that she uses as an arrow. And she actually eventually released a video for a song called Boa, in which she does that thing where she uses a snake as an arrow and fires it at somebody. And I know that they use a snake as a bow most of the time in this, but I just thought it was a really fun little thing to mention because, you know, if she had done this whole thing a few months ago, or not months ago, I guess, but maybe a year ago, I would not have known who Boa was. And I would have just completely missed this. It may have even been a spoiler. But I love the fact that I'm able to appreciate all of that now at this point. So, oh my God, I love how Boa is still in love with Luffy. She keeps interpreting everything he says as like a proposal of marriage. When she says like, I have all of your favorite food on board. I'm so thoughtful. I wouldn't be surprised if you wanted to marry me. And he says, no to the marriage, but thanks to the food. And she says, cold as ever, and yet my heart is on fire. And I love how she, like the delivery of that line. I feel like this actress was having a really good time when she voiced Boa. But yeah, so at this point, Luffy says, I learned the basics a little ahead of schedule. All that's left is to say bye to my friends here, I guess. And he goes up to these 3 giant creatures and he says, so long, you guys, and puts his hat on and then says, time to go. And that is when we get our intro about the King of the Pirates, new theme song, new intro, new whole thing. So we go then to Rayleigh and what is his wife's name? I forgot her name, but that's the name of the bar. I keep forgetting. And they're just talking about how excited they are to see everyone because their time is almost up and they should be getting here pretty soon. And as they're talking about this, somebody steps over the threshold. It's Zoro. He's the first one here. And Rayleigh says, I didn't think you would be the first. Same. I love the fact, I think that later on, I can't remember who it is that says it, but somebody says, oh, really? I thought he'd be last for sure and that he would get lost on his way here. I think it's Chopper that says that. And I was like, literally the same. I really did think, I figured the first person to get there would be Robin. Robin is the one that's like the most responsible. She always gives the vibe of a person who's like got a plan in place. And I just felt like if we're going to make predictions, I would think that Robin would get there first. And probably in order for things to like, this is an interesting question actually. And I would be curious what you guys think, but if you have a group like this, like a sort of ensemble cast vibe, and you are having people get together, but you need to stagger it and everyone doesn't arrive at the same time, what is your ideal setup for who is interacting with who? Because Robin is very tough for me. She feels flat a lot of the time in terms of her overall personality. And so there are few characters that show up that I would be like real excited about what it would be like between the two of them, because she's so placid and such a straight man that if it were someone particularly wacky, I think it could feel very one-sided. So if Robin shows up first, I think I'm choosing Nami because she is just close enough to being a normal person and a straight man while also having some extreme tendencies that I think that would be a pretty good balance. And then from there, I would probably do Usopp next. And if you do Usopp, then you probably want to throw in either Sanji or Zoro. You want to go back to like a more serious influence. And I say serious with an asterisk because obviously with Sanji and with Zoro, serious is very subjective. I don't even know if that's the word I really want. But, and then throw in a Frankie or a Brook and probably have Chopper and then Luffy last. Definitely Luffy last. Want everybody there first. But the way that this goes is fascinating because like everybody is in different places and they wind up, some of them do meet up, like Nami meets up with Usopp and then they encounter, Chopper. I intended to bring my little Chopper doll on because I got it for Christmas. It's so cute, you guys. I love it so much. And I keep every episode, I'm like, I gotta get that Chopper doll. And I keep it in the living room with a bunch of my stuff for Animal Crossing. It's sort of like my little anime-ish corner, but I gotta bring it in here next time because it's adorable. I love it. But anyway, a lot of them, like, they encounter each other in an order that I wouldn't expect. So, yeah, Zoro is surprised to see that nobody else is here yet. And he actually says, well, damn, I guess they got lost. Now, I'm just going to talk about what happens with Zoro in general, because this is so infuriating, you guys. So Zoro ends up going to see this fisherman. He wants to go fishing. And the fisherman tells him to get on this boat and wait for him. And of course, as usual, he gets on the wrong fucking boat. This dude, I swear to God. Sanji comes looking for Zoro. And the fisherman is like, something terrible has happened. He's not here. And Zoro evidently got onto a pirate ship, fell asleep, and the ship immediately sunk underwater because it had been coated and was going to Fishman Island. I really, really thought that what we were going to get was everybody except Zoro gathered together at Sabaody, and our first mission would be to get to Fishman Island where Zoro is. I fully thought that was what we were going to be doing because we needed to go to Fishman Island for some reason. And as of right now, there wasn't a compelling reason. I think they would still probably do it. But it's mostly at this point, it feels like just to be like, well, let's get out of here. First of all, we have to get into the new world. And also, we just want to see it because it sounds wild. It's a fucking underwater city. Of course we want to go there, you know? But it doesn't go this way at all. What happens, I swear to God, Zoro just straight up, she slices the whole ship in half when he realizes that he is on the wrong ship. And it surfaces in two pieces, like the fucking Titanic. And he is just chilling on the upended side, telling all of these pirates who are asking, why would you do this? We just wanted to go to Fishman Island. We just wanted to go to the New World. Zoro literally says, you have nobody to blame but yourselves. And rightfully, these guys are like, dude, what are you fucking talking about? I felt so bad for them. Can you imagine this asshole gets on the entire wrong ship without noticing, falls asleep, and then rather than the inconvenience of winding up somewhere he didn't want to be, he destroys their whole ship potentially killing crew. I don't know if he did or not, but definitely could have been what happened. And he not only is unrepentant about that, but he is blaming them for it. I am disgusted. Okay? Do you understand me? Zorro has always been somebody that I'm just like, dude, what is your problem? Like, he, I enjoy him a lot of the time, but so much of it, his personality is just being a pain in the ass in one way or another, either on purpose or not, and this, I was so angry on their behalf. I swear to God. Anyway. Florian says, first time we saw Mihawk, he sliced a ship Don Krieg's in half. Now we see Zorro doing the same. But first time seeing this, I thought the same thing as you. Seraphim says, I recall that line as him saying they have no one to blame but their bad luck. I think in the dub, he says something about fate first, and then he says you have no one to blame but yourselves. Which, I don't know if, if that's, I guess that's kind of the same thing. Seraphim is saying also, hey, from Zorro's POV, they tried to kidnap him. Does he really think that? I don't feel like he says that out loud. You know what I'm saying? Like, I get what you're saying, but also, disgusted. I'm just so mad, you guys. I just felt bad. So, I'm going to jump over to Nami now because she's at a bar. She's just having a drink. And there is a bartender talking to her saying, did you catch this? Oh, no, sorry. The bartender tells her something before these guys that she overhears. This is it, right? So the bartender tells her about how they changed where the headquarters for the Navy is located. And I should mention that everybody looks a little bit different, which is what's really kind of fun about the fakes that are popping up, because they have the old look that the characters all had. And to a degree, it's still relevant, but the actual characters themselves don't quite look like we remember. So Nami's hair has gotten really long. Sanji has grown a goatee. Robin is just sort of styling her hair really differently. I actually really liked Robin's look because it reminded me of when people go on like island vacations and get their hair braided. She isn't actually braided up, but there's a very strong, I was backpacking through some tropical area kind of vibe to her. Luffy with his scar, he's also like gotten even more like muscular and definitely grown. Everybody is just looking a little bit different. So yeah, Nami is at the bar and this guy is telling her they traded locations with a branch called G1. That moved them to the other side of the Red Line. Their new fleet admiral is a lot more cocky than Sengoku was. Moved right into the Four Emperors' territory. He's not afraid to stare down the toughest pirates in the world. On the upside, that keeps him out of our business. But on the downside, we've got a lot more criminals running around if nobody to stop them if things get ugly. So a little bit of context there for why folks are able to just completely get away with some of the shit that happens later. And Nami comments that there were a lot more thugs that she was running into. Also, I should mention, Nami is like sitting at this bar in jeans and just a bikini top, which I'm just like, what are we doing? And she has a bunch of bags on the floor next to her, so clearly she has already been shopping. I really feel her on all of this, and I wish so much that I could just take a day and go out half-dressed shopping to my heart's content and then get a drink. That sounds great. So this is when everybody is talking about how like the Straw Hats are finally back, And it looks like they're recruiting some new members. This is a good place for it. If you made it here, that means you survived the first half of the Grand Line and those guys keep pouring in. His crew is pretty small. Makes sense that he'd want to pick up more before heading to the new world. That sounds like fun to me. I'd make a great straw hat, right? And this was fascinating because, like, of course, initially, I'm assuming this is very real. The straw hats are 100% out here just being like, all right, we need new crew members. And because I don't know how this is all set up at this point, right? And I'm like, it feels weird that they would do it this way. But honestly, it could be somebody doing it on behalf of Luffy and not actually like consulting with him, you know? Like this feels like the sort of thing that I could see Usopp doing without asking. Even Rayleigh, weirdly, I could see doing it if he would definitely have like a second motive to it, but I just took it at face value. These guys, meanwhile, are mocking each other for ever thinking they could be on the Straw Hats because the Straw Hats have got such a reputation at this point that they are actually like notorious. And this is a really fun development because you know how much people look down on them for the most part, and getting to a point where just their name is genuinely intimidating to people, I think is going to be fascinating to watch how this plays out. Because for the most part, whenever they rolled up on a baddie, the baddie would just be like, oh, you guys, I've heard of you. What kind of silly bullshit did you get up to accidentally wind up with these high bounties? And I have no doubt that as time goes on, they're going to be up against big bads who are still going to be somewhat dismissive of them, but they're going to be received in a really different way by regular people. And that's the part that I'm sort of like curious about. Previously, folks have been sort of ready to help them a lot of the time and ready to see them as their saviors. And if they have this reputation that's preceding them, is it going to be more difficult to get folks to cooperate? Are people going to leap to the wrong conclusions about who they are? Like, will there be more folks tempted to rat them out to the Marines that they were here? I don't know. But anyway, at this point is when comes in all of the fake Straw Hats. And it is so great, you guys. It took me a second to understand what was going on. But then you have like all of them as a group. And there is this guy who looks like Frankie a little, like he has the hair. We got a guy who's got dark hair and a straw hat. We've got a girl with red hair. But all of them just are not actually the ones. And they are throwing their weight around a ton, intimidating everybody at the bar, and definitely have like been giving the bartender a hard time. And finally, the one that is pretending to be Luffy reaches out trying to get Nami to come and sit with them. He sees her sitting at the bar and is just like, oh, she's the hot piece. Get over here, lady. And Nami does not entertain him for a moment. She is just like, I am meeting a friend and I am way out of your league. It is so great. I absolutely loved her just being like, nah, I'm good. And they are ready to start some shit with her. And it's the one that's pretending to be Nami that comes up to her and is like, hey, I'm Nami. And I just laughed because I really wanted this Nami to walk up to her and recognize her and be like, oh shit, and realize the mistake that she had made and maybe try to signal to her friends that this was the real Nami. But she couldn't just say that out loud because then everybody would know they were all frauds. And instead, she gets up, she comes over to Nami and tries to intimidate Nami into taking, quote, Luffy's invitation. And as she is standing there and Nami is deciding what she is going to do, this giant plant comes in and just picks her up off the floor. I definitely had a moment of like, wait, what the fuck is going on here? I was truly just really confused. And I'm not gonna lie, even once I find out that Usopp is involved, I'm still a little bit confused. I should mention that Nami, fake Nami, has a gun on real Nami and is like, either you come drink with us or you die. For your information, I have a bounty myself. I'm the Straw Hats Navigator. Nami, you scared yet? Oh my god. So pathetic. So, yeah. Special attack Green Star. And Devil, he yells after it. And these vines come, and they're like, those Venus flytraps. Catch her up, and they're holding her up, like, near the ceiling. And the other Luffy is in the midst of being like, wait, what the hell? And the vines wrap around him. And I love, he says something like, save yourself, get away from me. Which I genuinely thought was, like, better than I was expecting of the man. Being like, you know what, guys? Leave me behind. I was like, huh, okay. That's a little bit more of a team spirit than I expected. And then Usopp says, hey there, beautiful. Can I buy you a drink? And I love that he made this entrance. And by the way, he's got a little bit of like it's like a soul patch, but soul patches are usually right under the lip, and his is at his chin. It's not quite a goatee. I'm not really sure what you call this. But he's sitting at the bar, and he's got a real, like, I'm a tough guy in a Western sort of look. But then he like pushes up at the brim of his hat with one finger and grins at Nami. And it's so cute. She's so happy to see him. And she grabs him and starts hugging his head right into her boobs. And I really thought that he was going to like say something about her boobs, or if he was going to maybe start a nosebleed or something. And I've got to be honest, I was so grateful that didn't happen. She says something about his muscles and his great hair, how great he looks. And he says, thanks, your hair looks nice too. And it's definitely him talking about her boobs. But it was so, there's no way you can't address the fact that your face is in her tits. So I didn't hold this against him at all. I just was glad that they didn't have it be like an incredibly gross, like horny moment. And so the fake Straw Hats are over there just being like, well, I can't believe that incredibly hot girl was waiting for that dude. He calls him pencil nosed, which is very good because pencil dicked is a real insult. And pencil nosed just feels like the PG version of that insult, even though I know it's actually meant to be very literal for Usopp. But yeah, Usopp says these are from something called pop greens. Needless to say, I haven't just been sitting on my butt the past few years. It's a new me. And yeah, Usopp is absolutely jacked. The camera like scrolls slowly up his body. And yeah, boy is shredded like lettuce. It is bonkers. Good for you, bruh. It's inspiring. Let me be shredded like lettuce. I gotta start doing some shit. But yeah, he's like, I am no longer like you and Chopper holding everybody. He doesn't say holding everybody back, but he definitely has like the category of the dead weight fighter, the dead weight regulars and then the badass fighters. And he's like, I'm in badass fighter category now. I'm absolutely like complete change in circumstances in my life. And I'm proud of him, but also, ew, rude. There's no need for that, sir. And he sees that Sniper King and the guy who's wearing that helmet or mask, I guess. And he's like, wait, how is this happening? And Nami's like, all right, look, let's get out of here. Don't forget about these folks. We have shit to talk about. And they start to leave. I love that the bartender is like, miss, you haven't paid your tab. And Nami throws him a bag full of berries, which I'm assuming is much more than her tab was. And I have to say that this kind of, I was like, oh, she's being really generous. But later on, she's trying to get a storekeeper to drop his prices 90%. And so I was like, oh, no, kind of same old Nami, which is fine. But yeah, so at this point, fake Luffy is like, gun him down. They're making fools of us. And as he is saying this, there are these bubbles that are floating to the ceiling around them and full of black clouds. They look really cool. And as they get up to the ceiling, they pop and they add their mass to the black cloud on the ceiling. And I was glad about this because I thought for a second that Usopp chiming in and saving Nami, that it was like, oh, a little bit of a cop-out. She doesn't save herself and we don't get to see like what she is capable of now. But not so. It's just a kind of afterthought. Well, afterthought isn't fair. I did feel bad after giving that bartender all that money that she basically destroys the bar, it seems. So yeah, all of that like gathers together on the ceiling and then you hear thunder rumble and it's like there's tons of lightning going off inside the bar. Because when they're outside, her and Usopp, there's just all of this flashing light and sound of thunder. And people like holding their arms up against the glare, just like Jesus Christ. And when the smoke clears, the building that the bar was in is scorched all over and looks like hell. It's a completely different color than all the other buildings on the block. And the doors fall off and the fake straw hats stumble out. And I had thought maybe they were just going to be dead, but no, they're just going to continue causing trouble. So, let's talk about Chopper. I've got about 20 minutes left and I'm just trying to make sure I give everybody the time they're due. You guys, okay, let me just talk about Sanji first. Because Sanji's deal is pretty much only that he wants some pussy real bad. And I have to appreciate that his attitude is making all of the women that he encounters very uncomfortable. I had sort of wondered if it was going to be a like, you know, they're unaware of how creepy he's being or playing it off, you know? And instead, it's a lot of women sort of like shrieking or sweating and like backing away from him. And I actually really prefer that than we pretend what he's acting like is normal. But that is like 90% of his like storyline in these episodes. It's just him wandering through Sabaody, getting horny for every single woman he sees. And the one thing that he's really on a mission to do is he wants to gather a bunch of ingredients and get back to the Sunny and make a meal that will really, really impress Nami and Robin. So, you know, he's at the market looking around, again, horny for ladies. And eventually, he asks somebody like where I don't remember why he wants to know where to shop for but she tells him to go to a different place that's a little bit more under the radar. And, he goes there looking for fish, I think. And this is when he encounters the fisherman who is dealing with Zoro. So, really, Sanji's whole arc, his plot is like 80% horny for ladies, 10% gotta cook, and 10% just gonna run into Zoro, and that's gonna be a thing. Chopper, I'm so excited about talking about Chopper, you guys. First of all, I love this little guy. I think that the plot line on that island with the birds and the native people, I think that plot was so cringy that every time we went back to Chopper, it overshadowed how much I love Chopper and just made me really uncomfortable, so that I wasn't fully appreciating our little Chopper as a character. But in this arc, we just get to see Chopper kind of being himself. And it was like heartwarming. I loved this so much. So he's like at Sabaody, really excited to see his friends. And later on, I loved so much how this went. But he tells Nami, it's really hard for me to tell humans apart sometimes, which is a great explanation that I will fully embrace. It's perfectly fine. But Chopper keeps falling for fake Straw Hats. I never saw this coming. And at first, I was kind of like, oh, come on. But when he says that later to Nami, I wish that he like said it earlier, but there was really no way to fit that in earlier. But it makes total sense. And it's so funny because we've got fake Straw Hats all over the place. And he runs into a group that is supposed to be Robin, Sanji, and I can't remember who the other person, or no, Robin, Sanji, and Zoro. And I want to mention that whoever's doing the voice for Sanji, it feels like is doing an imitation of the original Sanji dub's voice, because I think I mentioned to you guys that I watched a little bit of like the original dub at one point, and Sanji has it's like they tried to do a full-on like mobster Brooklyn accent sort of thing, and all I could assume was that it's like the double-breasted jacket that made them go in that direction. But I was so glad that they're not doing that with our present Sanji, and it seems almost like they are doing a bit of a like joke. I really want to know now, because, you know, earlier Florian said that the Japanese voice actors like switched up their characters and stuff. I really, really want to know if there's any other little jokes that are in this that I didn't catch. But the Sanji here has sort of an afro look to him. This Zoro is much taller and much fatter. Robin is way shorter. And they have this weird little fox that they've put antlers on that is their Chopper, which I am really glad Chopper doesn't catch on that that's supposed to be him, because I feel like that would have been very offensive to realize. But initially, you know, they're causing this whole scene and all of these people are gathered around, and Chopper is just trying to see them because he hears people talking about, oh, it's the Straw Hats. And so he thinks, oh, this is my friends over here. And he can't even like see past the crowd because he's so short. And he also already had gotten his hands on some cotton candy, which, chef's kiss. I really should make a little prop cotton candy for my doll to hold on to. That sounds so cute. I may have to do that, you guys. But eventually he is able to like bust through the crowd, and I'm so glad that it's resolved by the end of these like 3 episodes. But it was so heartbreaking at first, you guys, when he is following them and he's like, I really thought you'd be more excited to see me. He's still got such a great attitude, and it's not like he's heartbroken or crying or anything. He's not even really that upset. It's just that he is so excited to see his friends that it's making him like overlook a lot of the weirdness of the way they are behaving. Meanwhile, fake Zoro is like looking over his shoulder because Chopper is just following them down the street and talking to them. And he's saying to Sanji, like, this raccoon is like talking to us. And Sanji's like, don't be an idiot. Raccoons don't talk. And he's like, yeah, I know, but he is. Something's up here. And eventually they finally realize this is the actual Chopper. So the woman Robin, who is holding I don't know if this is supposed to be, you guys, that Robin and fake Nami, like that they're both being played by men in wigs or what. They both have like a really weird look to them, and they're also both very short. So I don't know if there's any significance to that at all that I was supposed to pick up on. But Robin she's the one that has, fake Robin, has the rope lead that is around the fox's neck. And so they're like, well, why don't we try and catch Chopper, and he will add a real air of legitimacy to our pretending to be the Straw Hats. And I really thought, because Chopper is just following them, I really thought that once they turned around, he would finally see their faces weren't right, and then he would realize his mistake. But that does not happen. They turn around and he is just like, so what's the deal with all of you guys? Why are, I thought you'd be more excited. And at this point, I'm just like, he's really not getting it. He really isn't getting it. And the Lady Robin, they're trying to talk about like what kind of food they can use to lure Chopper in. And one of them says, I think he likes cotton candy, which correct. Well done. But fake Robin is like, well, we don't fucking have any cotton candy. And she turns around and she's got like, I don't know if that's meant to be like a pickle or a zucchini or something. And she's like trying to first get rid of the fox because they don't need it anymore. And she just like kicks the shit out of this fox in really horrible fashion. And then this cracked me up, you guys. She turns to Chopper and holds out one of these, like, whatever this vegetable is, and is like, are you hungry, little guy? And the fox just comes up to her and clamps his teeth on her head, and these, like, 4 streams of blood drip down her face, and she has absolutely no reaction to it at all. She is 100% zeroed in on getting Chopper to take the food out of her hand. And Chopper rightfully says, you're kind of freaking me out here. And I was just like, what is going on? And as she's like kneeling there are a couple of they're people with the world government, but I just want to say like CIA agents because that's the vibe. And they are standing off to the side watching this all play out. And evidently, they also think that's the real Robin because they are blind idiots. And they come in with a burlap sack, basically, and just scoop her up into it with the fox. Which is key, because later on, when they're talking on the transponder snail, one of them says, also have a fox that keeps biting her head, which is just, I am perfectly happy with that. Delighted, in fact. But, I didn't see this coming. I still didn't see this coming, you guys. So Chopper's standing there. He still thinks that this is the real Sanji and the real Zoro. So he's like, what are we going to do, you guys, about Robin? And they are both basically every man for themselves, sucks to suck, but we didn't have anything to do with her getting scooped up, and she'll have to figure out her own way out. And poor Chopper, who thinks that these are his friends being absolutely cold-hearted, is just like, what the fuck is wrong with you? She's our friend, and she's in trouble, and you're not even going to do anything? You're not even going to say anything? And he gets himself so worked up over this. It is agonizing. I was so like, he Chopper, buddy, for fuck's sake. But he decides, I'm going to handle it. And I was genuinely like, what the fuck? You are? Like, how? What are you going to do? And he, it turns out, has like another one of those, I don't know if you call it a rumble ball still. But he is much bigger as he is like running off to sort of handle this issue. So that when he does run into Nami and Usopp, the real ones, later on, the two of them are both impressed with how much he has grown. And I'm going to ask you guys something that, like, I feel like I already maybe know the answer here, but it's sort of a confusing thing. So I know that there have been times when Chopper is like, I only have one rumble ball left, right? So I know that the rumble balls are a finite resource, that he can run out of them for the sake of the plot having some stakes. But is there an understanding that a lot of the other supplies that Chopper and Usopp are working with are mostly like an unlimited supply? Like, because my issue is always, as somebody with unfortunately a bit of a scarcity mindset growing up in poverty, I am very, very aware of any characters whose ability stems from having certain items and supplies, that they could run out of them and then they don't do anything, right? And this is a bit of a joke with like Hawkeye in the Marvel series. Like, he's a badass archer, but what happens when you just run out of arrows? Now what? Like, he doesn't seem to have a lot of other, he can do hand-to-hand combat, but you know, his like superpower is really his impeccable aim. And I get sort of like in my head sometimes about the characters using these supplies in a way that feels a little bit like cavalier. But then I have to remind myself that a lot of times the way the plot works is simply they just keep pulling it out of nowhere, that they always have more, unless we have to have a particular situation in which they run out. So I think that's what's going on with like Usopp and these pop plants, pop greens, that he'll be able to just have an unlimited supply, but I may be wrong about that. I don't know. Sorry. Oh, Seraphim is in the chat. He never runs out of the amount of them. His issue is he could only take one every 6 hours. Oh, right. Okay, Seraphim. Oh, yeah, that's right. I forgot about it. That it's like you take 3 and you turn into a giant scary monster. Right. I was thinking you take 3 and you turn into a giant scary monster and also they're all gone. I don't know where I got that they had all gone, but I just made that up. Okay. Thank you for that reminder. Seraphim adds, he is able to make them with supplies he likely refills anytime they're in a port. Okay, cool. All right. I'll be honest. The fact that they seem to have sort of unlimited supply is very comforting to me. I know it's not realistic, but I personally want these two to be able to always be badasses, regardless of the stuff that they have. And I don't care if this is kind of easy. I just would rather this. So just for the record, I approve and I'm fine with that. But yeah, eventually Chopper meets up with the real Nami and the real Usopp. It's so cute, you guys. They're like very excited to see him in the way that he was expecting them to be. And the way that they greet him, he gets all confused and they have to explain finally about how those are fakes. And he gets he's feeling himself a little bit that they must be famous for people to want to pretend to be them. And I was just very glad that by the end of these 3 episodes, the whole thing got cleared up, because I didn't want him to keep being so sad, and also to keep like potentially wasting his time and resources on rescuing somebody that is not on his crew. That person deserves to be scooped up. They were bad. It's fine. The fox, probably just let that fox go, but I don't mind keeping the fox just to bite her for a little while. All right, so there's a whole other thing going on as well with this gathering of Marines, or are they Marines? Navy, I guess. But they're talking. Let's see. They should be assembling on Grove 46. We'd better move quickly. Evacuate the locals before this becomes a war zone. So they have set up this like fake straw hat recruiting thing. And evidently, am I understanding this right? Because, like, they say something about how our targets are the Straw Hats, but so is it that they think the Straw Hats actually set up this recruiting and they're showing up believing that they're actually going to get them? Do they really think the Straw Hats would publicly advertise that they're getting together in this one place? I was a little bit confused about this because it almost felt like they had set it up, but I was like, that would only draw other pirates. It wouldn't draw the Straw Hats. Why would they come to this? But yeah, they're in the midst of like mobilizing here, and Sentomaru shows up. Sentomaru is one of those characters that I just really feel like we could have done without. This is a character that to me could be anybody else that we've already met and it would be fine. It feels like it's overcomplicating things to throw this other person. And he is bringing the two Kumas, PX5 and PX7, are coming with him to deal with these people. And Sentomaru is just like, haven't you learned not to underestimate the Straw Hats? It's been 2 years since the war. Surely they've grown stronger during that time. They may be rookies, but make no mistake, they're the most dangerous pirates out there. And we don't get to see how this works out in these 3 episodes. We have like the moments where all of the pirates are gathered up and we see some like new big bads, but I'm not going to talk about them now. I'm going to wait to talk about them next time because that's the next movement of the plot. And I feel like it will make a lot more sense since I'm running out of time here to talk about them when we are more invested in what's going on at that location. Because I want to keep checking in with all of the other Straw Hats. So the Frankie we don't see until Robin comes upon him. Or no, wait, I lie. He does show up at the bar, I think, doesn't he? And then he goes to the Sunny, or does he go straight to the Sunny? I think he goes straight there, and Robin is told that that's where he is. And she meets him there. The ship is already coated, by the way, and it's got like this jelly-like substance on it, which seems really weird. I don't know what I expected, but it really wasn't this. But Frankie looks crazy. When she greets him, there's this sort of weird pause as if to suggest that he looks so bonkers that it's like disappointing to her. But in true Robin style, she immediately just rolls with it and doesn't like care at all. I don't like this look. It's crazy. I don't know how he walks in through doors at all. He was always giant, and it was always going to be a problem to go through doorways, but we're on a ship, my guy. You can't fit below decks in that getup, those shoulders. What are you doing? What is happening here? And also, he shaved his hair off, which I think is maybe due to the fire, because it basically burned off like all his skin. So I think that like his hair being short is due to that and not because he actually cut it. But God, I miss his hair so much. It looks so weird. I just really, I don't love it. I'm delighted to have Frankie back, but I don't like the new look. Just saying. However, then we go to Brooke, and Brooke is the king of soul. Now, he has become a rock star. This is fantastic. I love it. I love everything about it. First of all, the song he's singing is a bop. It's a fucking straight up banger that slaps. I'm getting in all that slang, kiddos, all the 10-year-old slang. But no, for real, like, I love this song. I'm a little bit infuriated that, like, Binks's Brew is the one that everybody knows about Brooke. I get why, because of the, like, his origin story and the association with that song. I totally get it. But this song is so good. It's so much fun. And I love all of the stupid bone puns and singing about whether they've got milk and having their calcium. It's so goofy and everybody is eating it up. They love it so much. Like he's sold out. It's his last concert and there are people out on the street trying to get tickets. And the people that are selling the tickets are like, are you fucking nuts? We've been sold out for like 2 months. People slept here to get their tickets. Like, this is the best. I don't know how he winds up meeting up with everybody else. I'm not entirely sure what he has done to make some dude angry at him, but Brooke being set up as a rock star, I really, really want for this to be an ongoing thing that they run into when they go places, that people recognize Brooke and want autographs and want their photos taken with him and stuff. Because, like, it's one thing to be a rock star anyway, but he's a rock star who is also a skeleton, which means that he is going to be exceptionally recognizable. And I personally, I am very, very here for famous Brooke, who is somebody they can use as a distraction sometimes, or maybe they can use his celebrity status to get in places, or, you know, I don't know. But I really, really want this to, like, be a thing. And I'm just keeping my fingers crossed. Florian says, what are your thoughts on Brooke? Oh, he was asking me what I went over. Frankie's new look needs time to get used to. Understatement. I really want to not get used to it and for them to just sort of undo it. But what can you do? Seraphim says, oh yeah, long live the Soul King. Exactly. I love that. You guys, Brooke's overall storyline was very like, what are you doing? You know? But all of that to reach this point, I think it was worth it. I'm really into it. I love the costumes he's in too. He's in these wild outfits, like and all the puns. I can't overstate how much I love them. And I'm out of time. I'm over time, really. So I'm not going to be able to go into a full, like, detailed description, but I'm really hoping we get to touch base with him again and I can talk about him in the next episode. So, all right. I have to wrap up. Oh my God, you guys, I didn't even talk about Luffy versus Luffy. I was talking about all the Straw Hats. I didn't even talk about Luffy. All right, suffice to say, Luffy is, first of all, as face blind as Chopper, so he has fallen in with some people that are not his people and he thinks they are. But secondly, evidently has mastered a lot of hockey, and so he manages to, like, drop some of the fake Straw Hats he encounters in the street to the ground, no problem, and continue on his merry way. It takes a lot more time than that for those things to happen in the show. They are so drawn out. But that's pretty much it. So, all right, guys. I'm wrapping up. Thank you all again so much. Love you all. Until next time, toodaloo, motherfuckers.
That was an Unspoiled Network podcast.